Stop waiting for permission, start building your empire. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dole, say, like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share insights from an extraordinary conversation I had with Anita Brown, a visionary economist and advocate who is literally rewriting the rules of wealth creation for Black women in America. Anita isn't just changing individual lives, she's dismantling the myths that have kept Black women tethered to systems designed to exploit our labor while denying us equity. Her work is reshaping how we understand economic power, resilience, and what it truly means to build wealth on terms we define. What she shared with me will challenge everything you thought you knew about job security, career paths, and what real freedom looks like in 2026. So let me ask you something, and I want you to really sit with this question for a moment. When you were growing up, what did they tell you success looked like? A good job, right? Benefits, a steady paycheck, climb the ladder, play by the rules, work hard, and you'll be rewarded. That's what they said. That's what we believed. And for so many of us, especially Black women, we didn't just believe it, we lived it. We became the backbone of every organization we touched. We led teams, we carried departments, we showed up early, stayed late, and made magic happen with half the resources and twice the scrutiny. But here's the thing nobody warned us about: the rules. They were never designed for us to win. And right now in 2026, that truth is hitting harder than ever before. Anita Brown shared something with me that stopped me in my tracks. Black women are losing jobs at 3 times the rate of other women. 3 times. Let that sink in for a moment. While the overall unemployment rate for women hovers around 4%, Black women are sitting at 6.3%. And in some months, it's climbed as high as 7.5%. We're talking about 113,000 net jobs lost in 2025 alone. Federal positions, education roles, healthcare, caregiving, the very sectors where Black women have historically anchored entire communities are disappearing beneath our feet. DEI cuts, budget freezes, restructuring, they call it a lot of things. But what it really is, it's erasure. It's the same old story dressed up in corporate language. And for those of us who spent decades believing that if we just worked harder, if we just proved ourselves one more time, we'd finally be safe, this moment is a reckoning. But here's where Anita Brown flipped the script on me. And here's where everything I'm about to share with you gets really, really interesting. Because while Black women are being pushed out of traditional employment at alarming rates, something else is happening, something powerful, something that the headlines aren't talking about nearly enough. Black women are now the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the United States. We own 2.1 million businesses, 2.1 million. And those businesses, they're generating $98.3 billion annually. We account for 15% of all women owned businesses in this country. And between 2019 and 2023, the number of Black women owned businesses surged by 33%. So here's the question that Anita Brown posed to me. And I'm posing it to you right now. Well, what if the job market isn't failing us? What if it's finally telling us the truth? What if the instability, the layoffs, the constant uncertainty, what if all of that is actually the universe saying, sis, it's time to stop waiting for permission and start building your own table? Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Entrepreneurship sounds great, LeAnne, but I'm tired. I've been grinding my whole life. I don't have the energy to start over. And I hear you. I really do. Because That exhaustion, that's real, that's valid. And that's exactly why this conversation matters so much. Because what Anita Brown showed me and what the data confirms is that Black women aren't turning to entrepreneurship because we're chasing some glamorous dream. We're doing it because we're done waiting for systems that were never built for us to suddenly start working in our favor. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real life. Picture Georgia. Georgia ranks number 2 in the nation for women owned small businesses. And in the heart of that growth, Black women, women who were laid off during the DEI cuts, women who watched uh, their federal jobs disappear, 30% drop in federal employment for Black women compared to 11.6% for all women. Women who had every reason to feel defeated. But instead of updating their resumes and hoping for another chance in a system that kept rejecting them, they pivoted. They took their severance packages, their personal savings, and they launched micro businesses. And here's the kicker: Black women own 68% of all Black owned micro businesses in this country. 68%. These women in Georgia didn't wait for government aid. Many of them grew up in households where accepting help carried stigma, where self reliance wasn't just a value, it was survival. So they invested in themselves. They started consulting firms. They launched service based businesses. They created income streams that didn't depend on someone else's approval. And their businesses, they grew at 7% or more annually, mirroring that national 33% rise in Black women owned firms. They didn't just survive, they thrived. And in doing so, they helped Georgia secure its place as one of the top states for women owned businesses, contributing to an economy where women owned firms collectively employ millions of people nationwide. Now, let's shift our lens to Washington, D.C. D.C. It has the highest percentage of women owned to small businesses in the country, 48.9%. And once again, Black women are leading that charge. In 2025, when 113,000 net jobs were lost, when unemployment for Black women hit 6.3%, nearly double that of white women at 3.4%, when long term joblessness climbed to 25% of all unemployed Black women, something remarkable happened. Black women in DC didn't just accept that reality, they rewrote it. They took their severance, they invested in startups. Some even put money into stocks, building wealth in ways that didn't require them to beg for a seat at someone else's table. And they did this despite, or maybe because of, a cultural aversion to seeking aid. They remembered the patterns from the Great Recession. They remembered being the canary in the coal mine, the first to feel the economic downturn, the last to recover. And they said, not again. These women launched ventures in care sectors, in service industries, in spaces where they knew the need was real and the impact would be immediate. And their businesses grew 7% in 2025 alone, generating billions of dollars, creating jobs, reshaping what economic power looks like in the nation's capital. Collectively, Black women now own 15% of all women owned firms in the US. 15%. And those firms are part of a $2.1 trillion economy driven by women who refuse to wait for permission. And then there's the national story, the big picture, the one that Anita Brown says should be on the front page of every major publication, but somehow keeps getting buried. Black women nationwide hit hardest by job losses in education, healthcare, federal employment, the very sectors we've historically dominated are now fueling 2.1 million businesses as the fastest growing entrepreneurial group in America. Unemployment climbed to 7.5% by late 2025. Disproportionate cuts in federal roles under shifting political administrations. Systemic exclusion that's been documented by organizations like the Institute for Women's Policy Research. All of it pointed to one undeniable truth: the traditional job market is not a safe bet for Black women. It never was. But instead of despairing, Black women did what we've always done. We innovated, we adapted, we built. Today, Black women represent 10% of all US entrepreneurs. We own 68% of Black micro businesses. We generate $98.3 billion in revenue. And our business ownership rates have more than doubled between 2019 and 2023, despite every barrier, every systemic obstacle, every closed door. This is not a story about surviving. This is a story about thriving. This is a story about Black women looking at a rigged system and saying, I'm not playing this game anymore. I'm creating my own. So here's what Anita Brown wants you to understand. And here's what I need you to hear, really hear as we move forward. Entrepreneurship isn't just about making money, it's about reclaiming power. It's about saying no to systems that demand you shrink, that demand you prove yourself over and over again, that demand you carry the weight of entire organizations on your back while paying you a fraction of what you're worth. Entrepreneurship, the way Anita Brown describes it, is about softness. It's about creating a life where you set the terms, where you protect your peace, where you build something that reflects your values, your vision, your voice. It's about releasing the cape, letting go of the superwoman script that says you have to do it all, be it all, sacrifice it all, just to earn a seat at a table that was never designed for you in the first place. And I know some of you are thinking, but LeAnne, I don't know where to start. I don't have a business plan. I don't have capital. I don't have time. And to that, Anita Brown would say, start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Because the women in Georgia, they started with severance packages and personal savings. The women in DC, they started with skills they already had, networks they'd already built, problems they already knew how to solve. The women nationwide, they started with a refusal to accept that their worth was tied to someone else's approval. This is not about waiting until you have it all figured out. This is about taking the first step with what you have right now. Because here's the truth that nobody wants to say out loud: the system you're waiting to validate you, it's not coming. The promotion you're hoping will finally prove your worth, it's not guaranteed. The security you're sacrificing your peace for, it's an illusion. But you are not an illusion. Your gifts are not an illusion. Your vision is not an illusion. And the business only you can build, that's not an illusion either. So let me leave you with this. In a job market where Black women lose jobs at 3 times the rate, where the systems we trusted keep proving they were never built for us, where exhaustion and instability have become the norm, I want you to ask yourself one question. What if your power isn't in climbing someone else's ladder? What if it's in building your own? What if the next chapter of your life isn't about proving yourself to people who will never see your full value? What if it's about creating something so aligned with who you are that you never have to shrink again? What if softness isn't weakness, but the most revolutionary act you could commit in a world that profits from your exhaustion? So here's my challenge to you: not tomorrow, not next week, today. What's the one move you can make right now to claim that power? Maybe it's researching that business idea you've been sitting on for years. Maybe it's opening a separate bank account and naming it after your future company. Maybe it's reaching out to one person in your network and saying, I'm thinking about starting something and I'd love your insight. Maybe it's simply giving yourself permission to dream bigger than the box someone else built for you, because the world taught you survival. But you were made for so much more than that. You were made to thrive. You were made to build. You were made to be soft and strong and free. And that starts today. Not when you're ready, not when it's perfect, not when someone gives you permission. Today. Because the women in Georgia didn't wait. The women in DC didn't wait. The 2.1 million Black women building empires across this country didn't wait. And neither should you. Stop waiting for permission. Start building your empire. The world is waiting for what only you can create.